For going back together, I'm going to start with attaching the lid to the case because that's the trickiest bit. What we've got is a hinge point here, but it needs to be spring loaded to push the lid up. So what we'll need is to do this and put all the parts in, but the easiest way to do it is with the lid open. So when we come to add the spring loaded part, which is this, we need to have that inside this. So there's a little black catch that sits in there. There's a peg which goes on the hinge, and there's this section which holds the spring in place. And this bit goes inside there like that. So if I want that to go in place, what I have to do is just fit this straight section of the spring inside there. It goes through the gap here and sits in there. Now you can see there's some little teeth here, like a little geared bit. They tally up with this little section here, which looks like a solid piece, but actually the wheel will turn. There's a little tab, and that slots in to the bottom bit. So there's a little square opening there where that will just go in place and sit securely, and the gears mesh together straight away. Now I need to try and fit this through the little gap, push it over. Now pushing it over would make it really tight, which is why opening the lid works to my advantage. So now that is in place. In fact, it might be easier if I put the other side in just to secure it that bit better, because that's easy. There's just like two little holes for the little pegs to go through and one for the screw, and there's another little bit there that goes into the hinge. So if I move that into position, and then pop the screw in, it will hopefully just keep the lid straight while I open it and reduce the chance of it falling out. As we're screwing into plastic, I'll undo the screw until I feel a little pop and then tighten it up as usual. Right, so to get this other bit in position, I've got the spring in place, the extra little hook ready to just go in there, and then to get it into the gap it'll be easier with that opened up. Now this is where it gets kind of fiddly, so I'll see if it works out alright. Just make sure you've got the spring the right way around, and then everything sort of falls apart at this point. I don't know, maybe it'll be easier to put this bit in afterwards. Let's see. No, I can't, because this section here goes over the geared bit. So let's try that again. I need the geared bit in position. Have these parts ready, and make sure that tab goes right in position there. There we go. Now this time as I lift, I'm going to hold that little black plastic part in place so it doesn't drop out like it did before. Right, now I should be lined up to get everything in. This is what you could do with having a few hands. So that is in place. Gotta feed the spring through the gap. Get the hinge in position. And just lean it over and make sure that both of the little pegs are in place. If it's not quite working, don't force it. Just got to align the spring correctly. Try it again. When it's in place, you'll know it's in place. It sits really securely. So that's actually locked in. I can close and open it. What I've got to do is hold that securely and put the screw in with my other hand, so a magnetic screwdriver is helpful in that case. Line up, unscrew till we feel the pop, and tighten. Making sure that the two little orange pegs are lined up through those holes. So now that's all secure, that all works fine. Next I need to have the little catch in place so that it will stay shut. So the other parts I've got is this bit here and another spring. So this will sit here and just move side to side. Obviously we need it to hold in place so that it naturally sits in and keeps the lid shut and needs pushing out of the way and spring back. There's a little opening there, and these two are the same, whichever way up you've got the spring. That will just feed through the slot there like that, and then as the spring goes onto the column it will lock in place like that. This is simply just going to go down the side, I think. Doesn't look like there's anything complicated in place for it, because if that sits in here like that, just bend it back on itself. It should do the trick, unless there's other parts that I've missed. So that just sits down the side, all sprung in place, and then that will be pushed out in place by the other little lever that goes in there. They need to go in these, and they need to act like as washers on the black plastic part as well. So because what we've got, if I lift up and hold that in place, what we have is that black surface is flush with the orange bit there and down here as well, and that'll be a moving part. So the screw in this case has got like a built-in washer, and if I get that lined up here, it should just go in place. And what will happen is, because the black bit is slightly further down than the orange, you fasten it until it stops and you'll still be able to get that movement. It'll still move freely, but it won't wobble. So that's in place, and hopefully the lid will now stay in position until that bit is clipped, and then that'll lift and it'll click down and hold in place. Okay. Next I've got the little lens where the power LED shows through, so I'll be able to give that a little clean and polish before it goes back in. Just sits in there. The screws have still got a little bit of plastic in the thread, which means it might be a little bit ground up inside there, so I'll have to be very careful putting those back in. I won't put that one all the way in until I've got the other one in position. So that's all together there. What else have we got? We've got the actual buttons. Now, in addition to the two orange ones, we have the grey one that we lightened up a little bit as well, and each one has its own sort of shape so they don't get mixed up. The power button has got like that kind of shape, like a square with two bits on the side, which is that one here, so that'll just lower in place and click down there. Now obviously that'll drop down, but afterwards when you've got the actual parts, there's a switch on the assembly there which will push up on that bit there and stop it from dropping down. So then we've got these two. Now that with the longer piece and the two outside clips goes over here and goes on a certain angle as well. So they slope over ever so slightly. So that goes in place there, clicks down, that's for our reset switch. And then this one is our eject button. So we've got all sorts of little, like a little angled flat bit there which just slots through. That angled section on it here is what releases the catch that I've just assembled. So if I get that lined up right, it'll just pop in. You can see how that one sits level. And now we've got our eject mechanism all working. It's looking pretty clean on top. Only other bit I need on here is the fan protection mesh. There's two little tiny tabs there which fit into here, and there's three little sections at the bottom which will just sit on three sections there and click in place, so that's not going to slide around. So that's all back together. Top half done, ready to slot onto our completed GameCube.